A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. This is the recording for public speaking subject with its code CPB1022, and this is discussion on topic number 4, ethics and public speaking. I will mainly refer to Lucas' textbook of The Art of Public Speaking for the further reference of this particular lecture. Please read Stephen E. Lucas' book. Alright, we move on to the objectives of the topic. After you have learned this topic, you should be able to, number 1, explain why a strong sense of ethical responsibility is vital, is important for public speakers. Number 2, discuss the guidelines for ethical speech making presented in the chapter as proposed by Lucas. Number 3, define the differences among global plagiarism, patchwork plagiarism, and also incremental plagiarism, and then explain why each type of plagiarism is unethical. The last objective here is not included in our course. Okay, let us ask ourselves, what is ethics? Some of us say that ethics is about differentiate between good or bad, between hak and batil, and so on. What about you? What do you think of ethics? If this photo reflecting ethics, what say you? What about if I show you this photo? The connotation is still the same. It's all about ethics. This photo looks nicer than this one, isn't it? But both photos sending us the same message: ethics. Okay. What about this one? It's still the same. The connotation, the idea, the reflection is all about ethics. Alright? What can you figure out from these 3 photos? So if we can simply say ethics is hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, and in the Industrial Revolution 4 nowadays, in this era, so we put another term, post no evil. So this reflecting ethics. So what's the meaning of ethics? Okay, according to scholars, ethics is the application of moral principles, standards of behavior, or set of values regarding proper conduct as individuals and in a group setting. So talking about group setting, Lucas always refer it into what happened in a working organization. Ethics allow us to distinguish the difference between right and wrong. So I've told you just now about the differentiation between right and wrong, right? It is through ethics. Ni iklan je lah. Those who gossip with you will gossip about you. Okay? Those who gossip with you will gossip about you. So what's actually the outcome of unethical behaviors among us in our community? Kita makan daging saudara sendiri. If we are doing a lot of unethical things like berbawang, mengumpat, okay, mengeji, memaki dan sebagainya. Alright. So according to Lucas, ethics is the branch of philosophy that deals with issues of right and wrong in human affairs. Inquiries on ethics arise whenever one asks either a course of action is moral or immoral, either a course of action is fair or unfair, just or unjust, honest or dishonest. So ethics deals with issues of right and wrong in human affairs. What are the importance of ethics? Questions of ethics also come into action whenever a public speaker faces an audience. A public speaker faces ethical issues at every stage of the speech-making process, from the initial decision to speak through the final presentation of the message. Hence, we need to make a sound ethical decisions in delivering speech by weighing potential course of action against ethical standards. Lucas, alright, and other theorists and other experts in communication in public speaking had shared with us several good guidelines for ethical speaking. So let us look into those 5 guidelines for ethical speaking according to Lucas. Number 1, make ethically sound goals. Number 2, be fully prepared. Apa kaitan be fully prepared with ethics kan? Let us look into this later. And then be honest. Avoid name calling or abusive language. And the last one is put principles into practice. So we go to the first ethical guideline in public speaking. Okay, so number 1, make ethically sound goals. First responsibility as a speaker is to ask whether your goals are ethically sound. However, there is a grey area of ethical standard between us as public speakers and the standard of the audience, the different types of audience. Number 2, be fully prepared. As a public speaker, one need to know his obligation to himself and the audience in preparing himself fully every time he stands in front of the audience. The better the preparation, the better the speech will be, and the issue of ethics could be encountered easier. No matter what the topic, who the audience, where will the speech be conducted, explore the speech topic as thoroughly as possible. Investigate the whole array of the story and then get the facts right. Number 3, be honest in your words. Public speaking rely on the connotation of words can be trusted. People will be truthful. Without such assumption, there is no basis for communication, no reason to believe any single messages depicted or said by others. Number 4, avoid name calling or abusive language. Using language to defame, demean, degrade individuals of group, these are some of the abusive examples. Okay, in terms of using language. So please take a good care of whatever will come out from our mouth. Next is to put ethical principle into practice. As a public speaker, we want to deliver information to entertain, to persuade, and to make people agree with our words. However, we need to assure that ethical principles will always be the guideline in our speech all the time. So having said that, okay, we need to look into what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had once said. A slave of Allah may utter a word which pleases Allah without giving it much importance, and because of that, Allah will raise him to degrees of reward. A slave of Allah may utter a word carelessly, which displeases Allah without thinking of its gravity, and because of that, he will be thrown into the hellfire. This is Sahih Bukhari. So think good, say good, and share good. Alright, we move on to the next part of the lecture, which is plagiarism. Do you are familiar with the word plagiarism? If you are having the discussion of plagiarism, okay, in academic writing, I need to admit that there are a lot of plagiarism issues since the first day. I become a lecturer, okay, in USIM since 2004. Students will simply copy and paste any words, any sentences, or any paragraphs, okay, into their assignment. So when we talk about putting those references into assignment, so this is what we call as copy and paste plagiarism. So there's no effort of having a critical review on those references they cited into the assignment, or at least to cite the sources or the references or the names of the authors into his or her or into their assignment. So this happened among the students, and it is, I can say it is a culture, okay, but we can change this. Okay, we can change this. So how we want to change plagiarism for not being the makanan, the food, okay, for being a habit among the students while they are doing their assignment. So we need to understand the meaning of plagiarism and its differentiation between categories. So plagiarism, according to Lucas, the root word of it is rooted from a word of plagiarius. Okay, apa maksudnya? Kidnapper. Wah, kidnap And then presenting language ideas of another as one's own. So this is what we call as kidnap lah, to kidnap the ideas of others. Menculik. Alright, menculik in Malay. Okay, according to Lucas, there are 3 types of plagiarism. We call it as global plagiarism, patchwork plagiarism, and incremental plagiarism. So let us look into global plagiarism. According to Lucas, global plagiarism means stealing from single source and passing off as one's own. So you are having a whole book of maybe Lucas himself, and you say that that one is your masterpiece, that book is your own ideas. Okay, you developed the sentences, you develop the paragraphs, you develop the chapters, you develop, okay, the book, okay, to be a reference book by yourselves, but in the same time you steal it, okay, from a single source of Lucas. So this is what we call as global plagiarism. The second plagiarism, we call it as patchwork plagiarism. So again, patchwork plagiarism means a kind of plagiarism where one steal a copy of a work from others and then said that the work is his or the work is hers. So stealing ideas, stealing language from 2 or 3 sources, and then passing off as one's own, we call it as patchwork plagiarism. Next is incremental plagiarism. Incremental plagiarism is a bit different with partial and global plagiarism, whereby a person who do an incremental plagiarism means he is in a state of failing to give credit for parts borrowed from other sources. So again, when we talk about global plagiarism, so it is a process of stealing from single source and then passing off as one's own. Patchwork plagiarism means a person steal ideas or language from 2 or 3 sources and then passing off as his idea. And then incremental plagiarism, failing to give credit for parts borrowed from other sources. And then plagiarism and internet. To talk about this, you can look into Lucas' textbook. But what I want to bring into our short discussion in this lecture is nowadays it is simpler in terms of doing this plagiarism compared to maybe 20 or 30 years back. Why? Because we have internet. Alright. So cite sources when using internet materials, and then take careful notes among the steps to pull ourselves from doing this plagiarism. Okay, so if you don't want to be regarded as doing plagiarism, so make sure that whenever we take some other sources, some other references, okay, the words, the sentences, the paragraphs, so make sure that we cite the name of the authors, the name of the writers of that particular source, and then we take careful notes. So how to avoid doing plagiarism? According to Lucas, there are several guidelines, okay, for ethical listening. Okay, so make sure that when we want to okay, so the guidelines, again I repeat, the guidelines for us to avoid plagiarism is by having the concept of adil, okay, which we need to take a good care of others' hak. Okay, we need to take the other sources. Okay, we need to regard the other sources hak, okay, on his or her writings, his or her artwork or outcomes. And then we also need to know that by having a good care of others' hak, it means that Allah will take a good care of our own hak as well. Okay, now this is the guidelines for ethical listening, which I don't want to discuss, okay, in this particular topic. Alright, so I think we end up our lecture for this particular topic here. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.